Karis Hudgins is a sports broadcast director at UNC Greensboro. She recently had a reel go viral, and she takes us behind the scenes of ESPN Plus directing for a UNC Greensboro versus UNC Charlotte softball game. I'm so excited. Karis, welcome to the Fearless Warrior podcast.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm super excited to be here.
Is this how you thought you would be spending your time after a reel went viral? Now we just pull you and we want even more behind the scenes.
No, very much did not expect that reel to go viral. A couple of the earlier ones had gotten maybe, 6,000, 7,000, and I thought that was impressive. And it's just been amazing to see the support and people interested in behind the scenes of sports broadcast and production.
Which is so cool. We're doing a series on cool careers in sports. And as soon as I saw your reel, I knew we had to interview you because your whole goal of posting this video, and we'd love to
Yeah.
link it for you guys in the podcast. Your whole point of this is to show people how you do your job.
Yes.
And we know about sideline reporters, we know about the broadcasters themselves, but there's a
Mhm.
whole crew behind the scenes making sure that the multiple camera angles and everything is stitched together. And
Yeah.
so tell us, what does a sports broadcast director do?
That's a loaded question because it is so many moving parts and components. So currently, I am a student at UNC Greensboro. I've been with Spartan Sports Links for the past 3 years, which is our university's broadcast program. We stream all of the sporting events on campus through ESPN Plus. So I started as a camera operator. That job is a little bit more self-explanatory. You're on the field the whole time. You're getting the angles, listening to the director in your headset. Directing is a little bit different. Producing and directing kind of works together. So, being the director, you're kind of responsible for the organization of the show and very much kind of the storytelling element. So, as you can see in the video and a couple of the other ones, I'm calling for camera angles. So, we have someone up front on the switcher board, and the switcher board is essentially, you've got your different numbers, and you press camera one, camera two, and it's a little bit more complicated than that, but to
Sure.
get the gist. And then as a director, I'm kind of viewing all of the cameras at once, as well as our replay and kind of guiding different aspects of the game to kind of dictate what goes live. And then that isn't just a me decision either. We have a manager who's not a student, and then the whole crew very much works together to kind of get the best angles and best replays and looks, and graphics has to be correct, and it's a
Yeah.
lot.
And you just said another point of there's replays and there's challenges in
Yeah.
softball. We have challenges, and these are newer parts of the game
Mhm.
and the graphics as well. I think media has really exploded, especially for
Yeah.
female sports, where football and probably even baseball, some of these other male dominated sports that do have larger stadiums or are on ESPN, which softball has been getting on ESPN and ESPN Plus more and
Yeah.
more, which is incredible. But in order for that to happen, this
Mhm.
has to be in place behind the scenes. So it makes
Yes.
sense. It makes complete sense. What is your favorite part of the job?
Ooh, definitely the storytelling aspect. I am an English major, so any type of storytelling is just key. I was watching the Hornets game with my boyfriend last night, and if you didn't see it, essentially they go into overtime, and the broadcast just does a phenomenal job of building up the tension. And the storytelling is something that the audience is getting to feel exactly what you want them to feel, and they don't even know why they're feeling these things. So, with the example of the Hornets game, like being able to see who they're on for how long and how tight the shots are, and if they're doing a slow pull out, like that's just been amazing. And then being the director, being able to tell my camera operators, hey, I need UNCG's coach, or can you find, so and so's dad is in the stands. Can you shout him out like he did whatever? That's probably the biggest part. And a lot of people don't realize that although it is a sports job, I came into this job not knowing a lot about sports. I've never played sports. I don't have family that plays sports, but I've learned so much about it, and being able to get inside that community in a different way than having to be on the field has been incredible.
And I think what's incredible about this is you're currently a student, and from your Instagram alone, without doing a whole lot of digging, I just assumed that this was your career. And before we hit record, you're telling me your path. And so tell our listeners, you're currently studying. What's your post grad? I mean, how did you get? Let's back up. I'm getting too excited. How did you get started with this? Did you just sign up for a job one day and you started as a camera operator? Like, how did this unfold for you?
Yeah. So in high school, I was director of our news television like program. Shout out Blackhawk Broadcast. I'll tag them in this as well. They will love it. So I was a news director for that and producer, and so I kind of had the background of editing, and I was part of yearbook as well. So the photography was there. And I came to college, and I was freshman. I was kind of not knowing what I was studying yet, didn't have a path. And I went to some of the soccer games just on my own with a camera and took some photos. And I was like, I wish that I could be, a photographer for their Instagram. So I actually uploaded these photos and sent them to our communications department. And they said, oh, we actually don't need any more photographers right now. But the broadcast program here is like lacking. Like we need help. So I showed up, and I think that I was on a camera the second day that I was in the production trailer. Um, and just started as a camera operator. And then, unfortunately, our manager at the time ended up leaving. He transferred to High Point, and we didn't have a manager for a while. So I was kind of the next person up. And that's when I got my foot inside of the door of the trailer and have started learning, directing.
So that's a great question too, of behind the scenes. If if what we see on TV, we have two different components of, if you're watching softball on TV or any sport really, and you're watching it on TV, you're seeing the direct result of what you're working on. But if you go to the game, you have the announcers and the play-by-play and the color commentary up in the booths. What I'm hearing you say is this is a whole media trailer setup. Does that change based on where you're? And I would love for you to get into some of the other jobs you've
Sure.
taken on too, because I'm sure it's different for your different contracts.
Yes. So as a student here, we have a trailer that transports from the softball to the baseball to the basketball stadiums. So I am in the same environment in that sense, but you're moving between the fields that we have. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to work for Savannah Bananas, the baseball team. So that was a much different experience. Their directors were actually doing everything virtually from Georgia. And that was something that was something I was
Wow.
not
Are you
expecting.
allowed to tell us the Savannah Banana
Yes,
secrets? That's
I
incredible.
can tell the secrets. I confirmed with our producers. I said, I'm going on this podcast. I'm going to talk about Banana Ball. And they said that they're so open about, the production, and they want people to come work for them. So I'm
And
happy
that
to share more
production, as
secrets.
a side note, if you
Mhm.
don't know, those of you that are listening, is the Savannah Bananas have not sold their rights to any one channel because they
Yes.
actually broadcast it themselves on YouTube, correct?
Yes, correct.
That's also
Correct.
incredible. But they're
So,
treating it as if it's ESPN, or
yeah.
it's that high level.
Mhm. So the Savannah games was a little bit different because I was a camera operator. So I was on the field the entire time. And our directors were in our headsets, but they were in Georgia. So there wasn't as much direct communication. Like I didn't get to meet anybody face to face, but we connected on LinkedIn after. I've Instagram DM'd multiple of these people. And so that was amazing. Another thing with Savannah Bananas that's a little bit different than what I was used to is you had two directors in your ears because there's two different productions going on at the same time. So if you've been to a game, they have a video, like a huge video board in all of their stadiums. And because, this was a sold out game, if you're sitting in the top of the bleachers, you can't really see who's up to bat, what's happening. So their video board is constantly going and pulling from our cameras. So that director's in your ear telling you what to get, how tight to be if you're live, and then you have another director telling you, the broadcast on YouTube, what's going there. And those aren't, sometimes they ended up being the same thing, and sometimes they were completely different. So that was
Wow.
another interesting aspect. Yeah.
That's intricate. You have to be on your game. So is there a part of the job that you would say is not as glamorous, or maybe your least favorite thing about these roles?
Mhm. Um, definitely the mental load gets ignored. Sometimes in my Instagram comments, you can see many people saying, like, I could probably do this. I would just be on the camera that I wanted to watch. I was like, okay.
Karis, my immediate thought when I watched your reel was like, claps, girl. What?
Yeah.
You're doing this in your mind. That
There's
and
a, yeah.
I see your mental load. I
Thank
see
you.
it. I
Thank you.
see it, babe. Oh
Yeah.
my
So
gosh.
there's a big mental load specifically with directing and even camera operating, because when you're on camera, you have to know when you're live and you cannot move if you are live. Like, don't jerk, don't be moving around playing with your Zoom or whatnot. But specifically with directing, I'm looking at, we operate on 4 cameras, so we are a smaller school. Savannah Bananas had about 12 cameras. Um,
Oh my
so
gosh.
yeah, so you're looking at all of these cameras and figuring out the best angle, but you also have to know what's happening next. What graphic are we putting up and what on screen photo do I need to see for that? So it's a lot of thinking ahead and planning. Um, and again, this is all live. So if a mistake happens, there's no redo button, there's no erasing it. So learning how to kind of overcome that and just shake that off and move on to the next step of the production is important. And again, goes into the mental load of, you don't have time to say, I need to go for a walk and get some water. Like, you're live.
It sounds so similar to what we teach our athletes. We teach our
Yeah.
athletes, if you make a mistake and you're in the game, especially, our non-softball sports of soccer or basketball or volleyball, that
Yeah.
you don't get that downtime. You got to get down the court. The ball's coming back. And
Yeah.
what are you going to do to have that mental reset? We teach a failure reset routine. And
Mhm.
so it's totally applicable. This is so cool. Where do you see this kind of career going? Is this something that you want to stay involved in? What does life look like post grad for you?
Yeah. So, as I shared, I am studying English. So, post graduation, I plan to move to South Carolina, and I've been accepted into Teach for America teaching corps, and I'll be teaching middle school English. So, a bit of a different route. Um, but luckily, broadcast is very much a freelance industry. So, I do plan, weekend games coming back to UNC Greensboro. I have connections at Furman University. So definitely doing broadcast kind of on the side, but it's not the main career goal for me, and I think that's what's been so amazing, being able to test this out and realize that I do love it. Um, but knowing that I don't have to stick with it forever, or it's okay to change paths. I might go into teaching and come right back to broadcast.
Well, thank you for your service because that's incredible.
Yeah.
But also, I think this is the whole reason why we wanted to do this Cool Jobs in
Mhm.
Sports series, because what better time to explore this than
Yeah,
in college? And so, for our college listeners, if you're in college and you're curious about this is the best opportunity to have a safe way to explore if you're
for
interested in
sure.
it. So, I have a question that's kind of out there, and I would be so curious. Would you say that broadcasting is a male dominated field? And like, do you experience roadblocks as a female?
Yeah, so I think, as we know, sports is a male dominated field, and a lot of the environment around it definitely is. I've been lucky enough with my college community. Many of my friends are in broadcasts, and it's a very judgment free zone, and there's never been any bias there. Um, and not talking down on Banana Ball at all. I loved it. But I was one of 2 female camera operators out of 12. And our producers, I think the Spanish producer, Bella Soto is a female, and then Arch is a female. But other than that, I didn't interact with any women. And as much as that's a hard thing to push through, I think that's been a motivator, specifically on Instagram, is showing that this can be a field that anybody's a part of, and the mental load is able to be overcome by anybody.
And I think that that's what I wanted to talk about is looking at the reel, and the one that I discovered you on now has 1 million hits, 1 million views, and so many comments and interactions. And I'm looking at the comment that I left, and I'm looking at the comment from supporters. And you had mentioned that you had some, I guess, couch quarterback, armchair people that are saying, I could have done that. Like, what's that
Yeah.
like?
Um, I have not looked at the comments recently, but my mom does look at the comments and lets me in. And a lot of them are men who have been in this industry for a long time. And while the knowledge might be there, the way that they're sharing it um, is not useful or inspiring. And so it can be very demeaning for anybody, especially a young female, to put themselves out there when they have people just constantly knocking them down. Again, being one of the only female broadcasters out there at Savannah Banana, I was the youngest. I'm only 20 years old, and a lot
Right.
of my coworkers were in their older 20s or even 30s. Um, so that can be difficult. One of the recent videos was I almost got hit by a ball at Savannah Bananas. And a lot of the comments were saying that, I shouldn't have been there in the first place. I should have built the camera differently. I should have done this or this. I need a mentor. Um, but there's a lot of context on social media that's missing. I didn't choose where to
Sure.
put the camera. I didn't even build that camera. So kind of
Sure.
you know, overcoming and realizing, specifically on social media, again, the comments that people are leaving, they don't have the context. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I've been blessed in the real environment of broadcast to not have major barriers, and I have always felt welcome, but it's definitely a real issue out there.
Well, and I think it goes to show when you put yourself out there, if you're not getting haters or you're not getting
Yeah,
criticized, you're not pushing yourself and you're
that's
really
true.
sticking yourself out there. And I think for what it's worth, in the softball community, we will continue to support you because a lot of what you're posting is softball and baseball. And
Yeah,
I think you're just going to have an incredible impact on whatever, wherever this career takes you and whatever it looks like. You're going to create those spaces because you are a female and
yeah,
this is something that you're getting better and better at. And so just sharing that is incredible and bringing awareness to these careers and these
yeah,
jobs. Like this is the work. This is the mission. This is how we
yeah.
elevate more females to join this career.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. So, what would your best piece of advice be for anyone who thinks, oh my gosh, Karis, this is fascinating. I want to learn more. I want to do this. What's your best piece of advice for them?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this applies to any career path or personal endeavor is just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And as we talked about, mistakes are going to happen when you're live or if you're in a game, and learning how to move on from those quickly and bounce back and not focus on them after the game is important. But connections are also extremely important in a world where a lot of broadcast is freelance. So, the Savannah Banana Games, I don't think I mentioned this, but I got that gig because of my Instagram videos. The staff coordinator, reached out to me on Instagram and said, "We have a game in Chapel Hill. I see you live in Greensboro. Like, we know you're capable. Can you come down?" Um, so put yourself out there. Like, don't be embarrassed to just go for it. And mistakes are going to happen. Let them happen and move on from them, learn from them. So that's probably the biggest general piece of advice. But specific to broadcast, definitely just practicing. You're not going to expect to get on a camera and know the angles, know the assignments that you have. So learning. Something fun that I like to keep myself sharp is if I'm watching a game, I'll try to predict what angles the director is doing. So, or when a replay is going to happen, or I'll say, I bet this replay is going to be from an under the basket angle. So, if you're not in the realm of broadcast, that's a fun little game to play with yourself to also practice a little bit. Um, but just looking at things from a broadcast perspective, and it's similar to reading and writing. The more you read, the better writer you are. So the more you watch sports, the better you are at producing sports. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Karis, you are incredible. That's I cannot wait to keep following your journey and
Oh,
just the two pieces of advice. What I'm hearing you say is put yourself out there because you literally landed a contract based on your Instagram
mhm.
post and putting yourself out there. And for all the haters in your comments, our
Yeah,
softball community will rally around you, babe. We will rally. So keep posting. We're for sure going to link your handle currently is veggies and
for sure.
books, and we'll make sure we
Yes.
link that below. And good luck with graduation and all
Thank
that you're
you.
doing. And any final thoughts?
No, I mean, that sums it up. As you said, just push yourself out of your comfort zone. Like, you cannot expect to grow if you're in your little bubble of comfort.
So good. Clock it, as they say. Mic drop, all the things. Karis, thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you.